Now I'll start the July 7th board meeting. Now we got sound and video going, so I'll call the meeting to order. And the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we have public input. The sign-up sheets are there to the photo. We would, but I'd like to do a policy review of public input. So I did put some packets out there for public comment at board meeting, and I just want to roll through the big ideas of this because it's a little confusing sometimes. Of well, what can you say at a board meeting, a board meeting in public for public comment? So it's going to be very boring for a little bit, and then I'll give you the insight at the end. So if you have a piece of paper, you can have it. It says all board meetings, with the exception of executive sessions, we open to the public. The board invites the district's community members to attend board meetings to become acquainted with the program and operation of the district. The public has a right to attend public meetings held in open session and may be invited to share comments, ideas, and opinions with the board during designated times on the agenda. The board may conduct a meeting without public comment. Individuals with hearing, vision, or speech impairments will be given equal opportunity to participate in board meetings and submit written comments to the board. Individuals requesting assistance, aids, or accommodations are encouraged to notify the district at least 48 hours prior to the board meeting with a request consistent with board policy BD and BDA. Procedures of oral public comment. The board establishes the following procedures for public comment at board meetings held in open session. The information will be accessible and available to all patrons accessing our team session board meeting. Public comment is limited to its designated place on the agenda and while time allows. The person wishing to provide public comment, if an opportunity is provided by the board during a meeting open to the public, will sign on the public comment sheet provided or submitted their name electronically prior to the board meeting. Or requesting a public comment in person or electronically does not guarantee time will be there. A person speaking during the public comment portion of the meeting may comment on a topic not on the agenda. Person speaking during the public comment portion of the meeting should state their name, whether they're a resident of the district, and if speaking for an organization, the name of the organization. The spokesperson should be designated to represent a group with a common purpose. A person giving public comment is limited to an established time limit of 3 minutes. Statements should be brief and concise. The board chair has discretion to waive time limits or extend the overall time allotted for public comment. Additional time can be allocated in a fair and equitable manner. Time limits will be determined based on the number of commenters and the amount of time available for public comment. If a person has more comments than time allows or is unable to comment due to time constraints, the person is encouraged to submit additional written comments to the board through the district office as directed. Inquiries from the public during the designated portion of the agenda will not generally be responded to immediately by the board chair and may be referred to the superintendent for a reply at a later date. The board will not respond to inquiries that are expected to be addressed during another designated portion of the agenda. The board will not hear public comment at board work sessions. Topics raised during the public comment portion may be considered for inclusion as an agenda item at future board meetings. Members of the public may submit written comments or materials to the board at any time in a district office by mail or email to Volbrecht. That's an old email that we need to update. Materials or comments submitted at least 72 hours in advance of a board meeting will be provided to the board before board meeting, but it will not be read at the board meeting. Written materials or comments submitted may not warrant action by the board. A person speaking during the designated portion of the agenda for public comment may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs. The board will not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. The board chair will direct the visitor to the procedures in board policy KL public complaints for consideration of a legitimate complaint involving a staff member. Any association contract governing the employee's rights will be followed. The commendation involving a staff member should be sent to the superintendent who will forward it to the employee, a supervisor, and the board. Now, with all that said, right after you read all that, essentially it's saying you can't praise and you can't criticize a specific staff member. But always with policy, I believe this one was updated post-COVID. Right after you read all the end of policy, it's got references down at the bottom, and it's got court cases. So there's one that's called Leventhal versus Vista United Unified School District 973 SUPP 951. in a federal court case down in California, also Oregon House Bill 2560. So there's updates, and what OSBA does is a lot of these are boilerplate policies or given to districts, and they go, what could kind of fit us? And then they give us the warnings down at the bottom. Could you please go look at the court cases to see how this all fits together? And so then there's public comment at board meeting. It's policy BDDHAR. It says the board requests that public comment add information or perspective that has not already been mentioned previously, and the patron refrains from repeating a similar point. To provide public comment in person, if the opportunity is available on the board agenda, please sign on the public comment sheet provided. Those attending virtually and want to provide public comment should notify the board secretary by submitting an email to that same email as directed prior to the meeting. A person speaking during the public comment portion of the meeting may comment on a topic not on the published agenda. A person providing public comment will be allowed 3 minutes. Signing up to provide public comment does not guarantee time will be available. Any person who is allowed to speak to the board during a meeting should state the name, whether they're a resident of the district and speaking for an organization, the name of the organization. Spokesperson should be designated to represent a group of common purpose. Comments about specific employee or group of employees should apply with board policy BDDH. Public comment at board meetings, the person speaking, that's the same thing that was in the previous one. Then there's a intent to speak, which we don't use. Our intent to speak is on the sign-in sheet. And then right at the bottom of that one, BDDHAR, it says a complaint brought before the board shall be referred to the proper school authorities. A complaint shall be processed in accordance with policy KL, public complaint, and KL, public complaint procedure. A hearing conducted by the board regarding personnel may take place in an executive session. And then there's policy BCB with board officers and what they do. And so before I open the floor for public comment, I love public comment. I don't think we can accomplish a whole lot without knowing what the community has to say among their elected officials. So before we open the floor, I want to take a few minutes to lay out this review, and then we can discuss, like, is that the way you're seeing it, or the way I'm seeing it? So if you look at the second paragraph, if you look at our written rules under BDDH and BDDHAR, we have a framework that limits public comment to 3 minutes and defines it to designated agenda slots. That is standard, and we will enforce those time limits, or I will enforce those time limits on the dot to keep our business moving. As chair, I also have the clear authority to step in if the speaker becomes physically disruptive, start shouting, or use profanity. Those are standard time, place, and manner. So those are the free speech rules, time, place, manner. We can put restrictions on those. But we have two major areas in our written text where the phrasing creates a massive gap between the strict words on the page and actual legal and practical realities of running a school district. Number one, it's called viewpoint discrimination. So if you allow praise and then you shut down criticism, then that creates a problem for the board, because they can say that, hey, that's viewpoint discrimination. I'm talking to my government. So you're going to shut down praise, or you're going to shut down criticism, and you also have to shut down praise as well. And that's that Leventhal Vista Unified School District. So a federal court has ruled that you cannot enforce a blanket ban on criticizing public employees during public comment. That reference is at the bottom of the policy BDDH. If our policy allows a patron to stand up and praise a staff member, but we gavel them down the second they offer critique, we are engaging in unconstitutional viewpoint discrimination. School leaders, athletic directors, administrators, board members are public officials running taxpayer-funded institutions. If a member of the community stands up and says the athletic director is doing a poor job, which this is just a hypothetical, the athletic director is doing a poor job managing event cleanups because the track is overflowing, the front office isn't responding to emails, that's protected speech under the First Amendment. Even though they named a specific title or person, they're critiquing the objective execution of district operations. Legally, we must let them finish their time. We only step in if the comments cross the line of purely personal defamation or mudslinging unrelated to school operations, such as calling an employee names or dragging their private life into the room. That is when I will use the gavel to find the speaker to keep their critiques objective and focused strictly on district program. And this is the commendation trap. The second issue in the text is that the policy technically treats positive comments the same way. It states that commendations involving staff members should not be spoken in a microphone, but should instead be sent privately to the superintendent to be forwarded to the employee's file. From a practical standpoint, if we enforce that literally, we would have to cut off a parent who simply wanted to stand up and say, my kid's teacher did an amazing job to help them learn and read this year. That completely defeats the purpose of community engagement, cuts off anything meaningful or positive from the podium. The real reason the rule exists isn't to ban nice words, it's about data integrity. We want to make sure that the teacher's grade performance is officially documented by their supervisor rather than just floating away after 3 minutes. So, to make it clear and practical, this is how I like public comment to go is if a parent stands up to praise a teacher, a coach, or an advisor for running a great program, then a welcome it finished. I will simply state on the record, thank you for sharing that. I hope that goes into their file. Objective criticism, the patron stands up to deliver a passionate, sharp critique of district operation or administrative decision or board decision, will allow them to speak for their full 3 minutes without interruption. And then personnel actions, the only time the speaker will be stopped and redirected is if they attempt to turn an open meeting to an irregular personnel trial, such as demanding an individual employee immediately promoted, demoted, fired, or disciplined. Those are high stake matters that carry legal risk and strongly, they belong strictly in the KL public complaint process. And then finally, I say we, but I will strictly enforce a policy regarding the board's response for policy BDDH. Procedure number 6, the board does not engage in back and forth debate or answer inquiries immediately public comment. When a speaker finishes their 3 minutes, I'm simply going to thank them for their perspective, let them know we hear them, and immediately refer the notes to administration for operational review. So I want public comment to be public. It gets really sticky when you say you can't say this, you can't say that. Let's suppress this, but allow that to happen. I would say just an encouragement, like in a small community, when we only have one person for certain aspects of the school, it makes it incredibly difficult for people not to know who you're talking about. So from my perspective, just an encouragement to go, is this really, I guess if I was sitting in that public comment, I'd say, do I really need the board to know this, or can I settle this at a lower level with the person or administrator, or even the board member to get some resolution without this is everything that's going on. Now, if you want to say this is how I feel, First Amendment protects your right to do that with your government, in my perspective. So I open that up for discussion with board members if there's any objection or thoughts.
No, I don't have any.
Okay. So with that, we'll do public input. I didn't see if anybody else signed up after it came in. You check, because I've got only a couple. So I've got Becky, you're up first. Becky, then Stan, then Holly. And I think you press the button, you can turn that on. So if you're curious, it's on that one.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Maggie Bowles, I'm an ag teacher here at Weaver School. And I wanted to comment on the ag program and how everything about has been handled this year. Thank you so much to those who have supported me, fellow teachers and staff who lent an ear, parents who helped out with all the things, and students who should have participated and kept us safe. That said, we cannot change the past, but I would like to point out that nothing was communicated to me about concerns from students, parents, or admin until late spring. I don't know when issues were first brought to admin at either level, but I was not made aware that there were concerns until a meeting I had called in April after feeling uncomfortable with the way things were handled pre-state convention. The thing about teaching is that you're always learning as well. I'm not a perfect person, and I know there are probably many situations I could have handled differently and done better, but I can't fix things I don't know are wrong. And I don't believe it needed to get to this level. I find it extremely frustrating that I was not included in conversations directly regarding my program and how I run it, that I was not given an opportunity to correct issues before this was moved to the board and an investigation was called, and that I was given the impression by admin that this investigation was more about how they had handled the situation than it was about my program, which clearly didn't seem that way. Since about mid-March, the behavior from students and parents alike toward me had been rude and outright disrespectful. It has only gotten worse as it carried on to each level. While I appreciate the time and effort put into the investigation, I feel like there was very little inquiry into my side of the experience, just as there had been during the whole school year leading up to this point. The only conversations that were being had did not include me or ask for my side of the story. I also don't feel like the solution to the investigation will fix anything as it only prolongs conversations and mediation is obviously lacking. Duper used to be a place where we could work through issues in an open conversation right away when a problem was brought up. There weren't secrets, there was face-to-face conversation to come to a solution, and things were not left to fester until a point where recovery was questionable at best. At the end of every FFA meeting, we part with these words. As we mingle with others, let us be diligent in labor, just in our dealings, courteous to everyone, and above all, honest and fair in the game of life. I do not feel that any of this was handled with those ideals in mind. I no longer feel respected or valued in this position. So after many hours of consideration and numerous sleepless nights, I made the difficult decision to resign from my position as super ed teacher. Effective immediately.
Okay, next up for public comment is Stan, I believe.
Last report here.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody can hear you or not, so I'm gonna grab, if I can hear you for it.
And actually, my voice. Carries. Yeah.
I don't know, the bounce off, we don't hear.
Uh, Hard to follow that. These are hard times for different schools right now. And I guess I just want to make a statement of obligation. I'm not gonna cut judgment on anybody. I've been sitting in that chair enough times, I know what it's like, but a year and 3 months ago, or whenever the voters wanted to come and, you know, you guys' platform with transparency and communications and all these things that apparently the boards in the past didn't do a very good job with. And so the voters voted that way, and here we are. So here we are a year later. We have no superintendent. We have no principal. I was in a meeting here a few weeks ago, two counselors in positions were created, and I think counseling, especially in the lower grade, is very important. I just, why can't we figure this out if it's half-time position with benefits? Figure it out. We've always figured it out. We didn't throw them under the carpet. We figured out how to solve it. Either maybe you pay half the benefit or something, but you figured it out. And then now we've lost people that have been asked to turn in a resignation, and another one tonight, and a year later. And what has happened? This school district has been very highly accommodated, very highly successful school program in a lot of years, and it's heartbreaking. It makes me really sad because the taxpayers do not vote in this. And it's heartbreaking. I'm over being mad. I'm heartbroken because this beautiful building. I've been involved in 3 different bond projects. Every one of them was supported unanimously by the voters, and we did what we said we were going to do. Look at this building; it's beautiful, and it's the same age as Petersburg School, by the way. You know, you had that discussion. I was here for that. I'm very emotional about that too. That this school is not very much different than that school. So solve the problems. Don't throw them under the carpet and make it go away. That's not what you do. You solve the problem. Just like in negotiation, you solve the problem. And that's all I think, you know.
Right, thanks, Dan. And Holly, you can go ahead and mic and sit there and sit that in.
Have you done it? Okay, so my name is Holly Clausen, although most of you probably know that. I'm a proud parent and community member of this district. I am sitting in front of you tonight with a deep concern regarding the current direction of our school. Starting on the school board is an honorable position. And you chose it to dedicate yourself to our children's future. The mission of public education is to provide excellent education for every child, regardless of their backgrounds or their beliefs. This role should never be used to promote personal agendas. A struggling school board is often marked by failure of acknowledgement to see when a system is fracturing. Our system is fracturing. It is crumbling right in front of us. In the last month alone, 3 employees have resigned, which to my understanding is a direct result of the board's actions. This represents a profound loss to this institution, their knowledge, and their dedication to our children. Staff members do not lead a healthy and supportive system. The stress that this past year has created, it's created a toxic environment. It has trickled down into our classrooms. Our teachers are at odds with each other, and so is staff. When leadership is divided, our students pay the price. We cannot provide a rigorous education if our staff does not feel safe, supported, and valued. The priority of this school district must be to return to an outstanding system that offers rigorous academics, unwavering support for our administration, for staff, and our teachers. And I think in the end, we all share the same goal. We want a strong school that is safe for our kids, that is built on a foundation of good morals and ethics, and provides excellent education. So I ask each of you to please evaluate your focus. If your primary goal is not for the education of our students and providing an excellent environment for our staff, then I would ask you to please consider resigning from your role. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Okay, that ends public comment. We'll go into the approve the agenda. There's some additions I'd like to add. Number 1 would be down at right after this a board resignation. So if everybody's good with that, to add that on there. Okay, and then you do have this FFA opening that's working for the summer months. So down under new business at I'd like to put in that right at the beginning, so we can do that to have the ending of the way it's set up, to appoint a director for summer FFA activities. And so Michelle Dollarhide has been offered that for this meeting, so we need to install her. And then also a negotiation for intern down at, it'll be underneath D for that negotiation to get an intern superintendent in here to pay the bills and get things going. So any objections to that? Okay, so I'll hand it over to Anne for what she'd like to share. Yeah, there you go, rest of it.
To the Dufur community and school board. It has been my honor and privilege to serve on the Dufur School Board for over 15 years. During this time, I've enjoyed being part of a school that has been admired locally and throughout the state. In the past, working together with other board members, no matter our differing politics or interests, was a pleasure because we all work toward a common goal to make Duke the best school for students, staff, and community. Last year, I was looking forward to aiding the transition to new leadership and hoped that my experience and history of Duke School would be valued and useful. Instead, my concerns about board members' personal relationships leading to violations of communication and governance policies have been repeatedly ignored and dismissed. Board president claims to be a rigid follower of policy, but changes his interpretation of the policies to suit him as needed. Board members have overstepped their roles repeatedly, undermining the administration's authority by ignoring systems and policies and insisted on micromanaging decisions. This is not a board member's role. I want to be clear that it is my belief that Dufer has arrived at this place because of the actions of individual board members, specifically the intrusive and unprofessional behavior of the board president. They claim to support the administrators, but undermine and disparage them to community members and staff. As the lone voice advocating for allowing the administration to do their jobs without undue interference, I no longer feel that I can effectively fill my role. It saddens me that the actions of a few individual board members, specifically the board president, have put Dufer in the position of losing a superintendent, principal, director of mental health, and now longtime board member in such short order. It is my sincere hope that the board can reflect on these events and find a path forward to serve Dufer School within the bounds of their roles. In the spring of 2027, voters in the Dufer School District have the opportunity to choose at least 3 of 5 board members. Please take this responsibility seriously and choose those who will act as stewards of the school district and respect the boundaries required by state law and district policy. I regretfully resign my position as Dufer School Board position number 1 effective immediately. Thank you.
Alright, so maybe 5, it's pretty. And so just a quick response to that, I'm more than happy for an outside investigator to look at everything. It's okay with me for anyone to ask any question that they'd like to ask. It's okay for me for the community to call, say, hey, look at emails, look how things were done, be perfectly fine with that process. So it's hard to hear a perception or what someone sees as the way they see it, and everybody's entitled to that opinion. That's what I signed up for when I came ran for this position, and it comes with the territory. So that's all I have to say about that. So ask me a question, come talk to me. It's okay with me. With that, we'll move into the consent agenda with appointment of officers and board organizational structure. Just as a legal matter, this is since we only have 3, the majority is always 3. Even if one of us votes no, then it's still nothing gets done. So, so the first thing you probably should do is announce a vacancy for this position here with Ann. And I do appreciate Ann and what she has done in the challenge that she's had me in my thinking. And so we do need someone to step in that. So with that, I make a motion to recognize that resignation and announce a vacancy for that position in a second. Okay. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. So there's a board vacancy. We'll have the same process that we had for tonight as well, going through that. I made a motion and then Dave seconded. So it passes to open that up as a vacancy. And then we have the appointment for officers and board organizational structure. So obviously there's pressure on me to not be the board president. And so you guys will, it kind of puts us in an awkward position of nomination and who's going to be the vice. And so I'm open for debate. If you think that it would be better for me not to be the board president, then I'll take that direction from the board. If you want me to help move us through this, then I'm more than happy to do that as well. So
yeah, I think you help it move us through it.
okay. So I think we need a nomination. Unless one of you want to do board president for the next 6 months or a year. So
Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah.
This is true.
I guess part of my thinking right now is we've got a lot on our plate, we've got a lot to work through. Uh, how we best handle that.
So now that I'm just sure.
But then it's also just some of the time piece too. I mean, I know there's other meetings that go on besides this, with the superintendent board chair, that's difficult to. It's for us to so, and that it's something we have to deal with, so.
Yeah, and for the community, I mean, it's introspection on my part to, okay, we do have some consternation with this, and so what best fits the community? And I'd like to hear from you guys if that's a role for me to continue in or and persevere through and try to garner trust, or if it's better for one of you to do that. So that's just what's floating in my head.
Well, I think part of what we're dealing with is we have to work as one unit. And I think that's some of the maybe some of the concerns are. So I think that maybe better to do a solution at this unit. Yeah. Not saying that I've against some of the things that have gone on, but just with a lot of the concern out there, maybe it is a good time to switch it back.
Okay.
So,
Well, with that, I nominate Dave Beeson as board the president for the 26-27 school year. Any second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any all those say aye, agreeing? Aye. Any objections? None. So now vice chair. And essentially the vice chair fills in, and the chair is incapacitated. Well, that's probably not the best way to put it, but not available to lead the meeting. So if you guys are comfortable with that, I'm more than willing to do that. If you want to do it, Sean or
Would love to do it if I had the time.
okay.
Yes, I'll make a motion to nominate them as vice chair.
Also,
Okay, so moved and second for me as vice chair. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. So we got the offers and board organizational structure, the consent agenda, so the regular board meeting minutes. Do we have them in the packet somewhere? They were, okay. I read through those earlier. If you guys have no objection, we can pass that by consent. All right. The next one is old business. We've been talking about board book. So what board book is, it allows everything in real time for the public to see how things are being built. I put that on there because I didn't know when we'd be in a superintendent search, see if one of us wanted to take up making that sign in and getting it done. So the board book discussion would be setting that up. But if we do an interim superintendent, then we don't particularly need to set it up now. So if I consent, can we just skip over that one? Okay, sure. Then the Wasco County Sheriff's Satellite Office is, we're in a third reading, and it is establishing Wasco County Sheriff's Office to have an office here. So if they're in our area, they can sit down and do paperwork. I would propose that we do that. That's something Kristen worked on. It was a really good plan. So I make a motion that we approve the Wasco County Sheriff's Satellite Office.
I'll second it.
All right, so moving and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. New business, I put the FFA director position for the summer. Michelle Dollarhide was in talks with doing that. I got an email a couple days ago saying how do we do that? And I was like, well, I think without a superintendent, we need to do it as a board. So I make a motion to appoint Michelle Dollar Hyde as the summer FFA operations leader. Dave seconds that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. And then consideration of public on candidate for open board positions. I totally messed it up at the beginning. I was going to give you the order that you're going to go in. And so with that, I did a rubric where there's groups and you split into 24 different combinations of who goes first. Since I didn't give that to you, prepare your mind. If there's someone that would like to be the first one to go, we can move through the questions and do that. If not, I'll just assign it. All right, Sean, you can come up first. So since you're the first one, I'll pick the group with your name that had it first. So we got Sean Skiles, Angela Aislinn, Riley Letter, and Ray Thomas. And then there's so Sean, hold on. I also need to put on here the consideration of public on candidate for open board positions. So before we get started with Sean, this reconsideration. We had 6 applicants, and a community member said, "Hey, wouldn't it be nice if we had all 6 of them?" And I was like, well, actually, Dave came to me afterwards and said, "Hey, we nominated 5. There's actually 6. So why shouldn't we just do 6?" And the community member said, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." So I'd like to have a reconsideration of having Ted Brewster interview with Gillian Nelson when we have to do it again. Gillian will be back on the 12th. So we got to do another meeting to interview them. So, any motion to add Ted Brewster to the.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. So, Dave makes a motion. I'll second that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Passes unanimously. All right, Sean. Thank you for throwing your hat in this. And I think I sent an email that said, hey, there might be a surprise question at the end. We're not doing any surprise questions. So, so we'll just move down through the list. The microphone's on. So please tell us about yourself, why you're interested in filling the school board position, and what makes you a strong candidate.
Was, you guys know, I've been a resident of Duford for nearly 36 years. My wife, my 2 daughters, and my 3 grandsons are all Duford Rangers. So it is close to us. We have a genuine concern and desire to see this school succeed. And so that was really kind of the initial drive of my desire to put my name in the hat. I am very concerned about the status of where we find ourselves right now. But I don't believe that this is something that happened just overnight. I believe that the problems we're experiencing right now are related to lots of things that have gone on in the past and the way things have been directed and handled. And I believe that you don't change things overnight. And I believe, although this is contrary to some expressions already said tonight, I believe that you 3 are on the right track. And it's going to take a lot of grit and grind. But, this past year has not been a successful year when we have individuals who are leaders in this school not interacting and participating with those that are out doing the work. And that's just a small snippet of the situation, and how we got to that is a whole other topic. But having said that, the real desire to serve on this board is to help to do my part to bring administration and staff back to one team. And in doing so, meeting the number one goal, and that is educating our children in this community to the very best possible way we can. I believe that that is your guys' intent, and I support that, but we've got some hurdles to get over to do that.
But then the second question, your specific strengths, experiences, perspectives you bring to the board.
So some of my skill sets that I feel would benefit. I'm a good listener. I'm a problem solver. I have strong people skills. My past experience, I think, aligns me with a lot of that. I had the opportunity to serve as Oregon State FFA president back in the dark ages. Was able to represent the state of Oregon for their national FFA candidate a few years later. Those gave me some real foundations on how to work with people. I've worked with chapters throughout the state in that time. I moved on to serve on staff in Washington, D.C. for the FFA organization with their Summer Leadership Conference. I spent 23 years in sales, and I have to put sales right up there close to being a school board member as far as working with people and keeping everybody happy. It's a difficult job, but in that, I was able to, again, listen to people, hear people, what they needed, and then try to find solutions to it. I also served as sales manager for a few years, which gave me a chance to manage people and learn how to encourage them, but also to hold a firm line. You cannot have, you can't have chaos. There has to be structure. There has to be policies and there has to be procedures, and those policies and those procedures need to be followed, no matter who you are. Whether you're on the board, whether you're the administrator, whether you're the principal, whether you're a teacher. I got my education in agricultural education. I was student taught before, so it has been a while, but I do understand what it's like to be in the classroom. So I think those would be that kind of governors.
Okay, and then kind of answering some of this in number 3 is the most significant challenges facing the district and your vision for outstanding school districts. So you can add on to what you got.
Just to reiterate my concern, if we cannot educate our children to the very best possible way without unity between superintendent and principal and staff. You have to have that. I do not believe we've had that. Having said that, in order to get there, it takes communication. That's the fact. Look at our families. Look at your marriage. Look at anything. The root of the problem is poor communication. And so you start with good, solid communication, and everybody on board understanding what's being said, what's expected, whatever the situation is, communicating. I also feel with I looked at one of my career things that contributes, I think, also to this is I spent 10 years as an ad consultant for Columbia Bank. And one of the primary things I did there was I looked at credits that were $1 million or greater and assessed how healthy they were. And I was able to look at budgets. I assessed budgets. And so that leads me into another challenge that we have is the transparency of our financials in this district. As a board member, I would be a representative of the taxpayer. And I would expect, and it's been expressed in board meetings in the past, recently in the past, that as a board member, I should expect myself and I should be expected by the taxpayer to answer where the dollars are going. And if we don't have transparency, that's a difficult task. So that would be another area.
Okay. And the fourth one is, how do you view the board's role versus the administration's roles, and what is your understanding of and your experience with policy and governance?
The board's role is to set policy. The administrator's role is to administer and assure the board that policies are being implemented and being done correctly. So, staff answers to the superintendent. Superintendent answers to the school board. School board answers to the taxpayers. So, if things aren't being done, if things aren't being done per policy, then it is the board's responsibility to make sure the superintendent gets it done. So there are times where it may feel like the board is overstepping its bounds. But they're only going to overstep the bounds if policy is not being administered as it's intended to be. Then as far as the governance, I think I answered that.
Okay, and then how would you handle concerns from an upset parent or staff member, and how do you approach conflict or disagreements with colleagues? You got a specific example that you worked through disagreement or conflict, especially in a group or leadership setting. What was your approach and the outcome? So how do you deal with conflict?
I've in the arenas that I've been in over the years, there's been conflicts, and I can recall one where an individual, this was back in the sales end, we were selling farm equipment, and the customer came in irate. He was irate at the service manager, and they were going at it, and I had to step in the middle of them and calm the customer down. And that's the first thing: calm, defuse the situation, then open up the lines of communication. Okay, now that everybody's calmed down, let's talk. Let's sit down and let's talk. What's your concerns? And then and things will resolve. We got things resolved because we sat down, we cooled off, we communicated. And I think that's key to that overall view is essential to any scenario. Yes, there's going to be fine point things that are specific to that, but in general, that's how I handle an irate parent or whatever it is.
All right, well, you made it through the 5, so thank you for your time. We have up next Angela. Would you? Thanks for your interest. It's welcome. So first one, tell us about yourself, why you're interested in filling the school board position, and what makes you a strong candidate.
I've been married for 20 years and been a mother of 6 children in a blended family. And I've owned and operated a licensed childcare business for 26 years, which has given me the opportunity to work closely with children and families from many different backgrounds with a wide range of needs. I am interested in serving on the Duper School Board because I believe I can bring a unique and valuable perspective. My own children have attended and graduated from Duper. Over the years, I've built a strong relationship with students, parents, and families throughout the community through my childcare business. I understand many of the successes, concerns, and challenges families experience because I hear about them often firsthand. I work with them on a daily basis. As a parent of a child with special needs, I also understand the importance of ensuring every student has access to the support and opportunities they need to succeed. I believe in honesty, transparency, fairness, and treating everyone with respect. Most importantly, I want to make a positive difference in Duper schools. We help ensure that all students have the opportunity to
learn. What specific strengths, experiences, and perspectives would you bring to the board?
One of the greatest strengths I would bring to the board is my experience and long-term connection with Duper schools. My family have been involved with the district since 2014, which has allowed me to see both how the district evolved and where
where opportunities for growth still exist. Through my childcare business, I interact regularly with parents, grandparents, and students, which provides me with a broad perspective of the concerns, successes, and needs within our community. These conversations offer valuable insight into what families are experiencing and what they hope to see from their school district. I believe my perspective as a parent, childcare provider, and community member allows me to understand the importance of balancing the needs of students, families, teachers, and staff. And I am committed to listening, asking thoughtful questions, and always advocating for decisions that are in the best interest of our students.
Okay, and what do you see as the most significant challenges facing the district, and what's your vision of an outstanding district?
And one of the most significant challenges I see facing the district right now is meeting the increasingly diverse needs of students while ensuring teachers and staff have the resources and support they need to be successful. Many students today require additional academic, behavioral, or social emotional support, and staffing limitations can make that difficult to address the needs effectively. My vision is one where every student receives the support they need to succeed while maintaining a positive learning environment for all the students. I believe smaller class sizes, strong intervention programs, and adequate staffing can make a meaningful difference in helping students thrive. Again, as a parent with special needs, I understand the importance of individualized support and inclusion. At the same time, I believe it is essential to ensure that all students have access to a safe and productive learning environment where they can reach their full potential. My goal would be to support solutions that benefit students, teachers, and families alike.
Right. And then how do you view the board's role versus the administration's role, and what is your understanding of experience with policy government?
Through attending board meetings over the last several years, I have developed an understanding that the board's role is to provide oversight, establish policy, and set goals, and support the superintendent. While the superintendent is responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the district and supervising staff. My experience with policy and governance comes from running and operating a licensed childcare business for 26 years. Maintaining a step child care license requires compliance with changing regulations, policies, and procedures, as well as ongoing training and accountability. This experience has taught me the importance of following established policies, adapting to changes, and making decisions that are fair, consistent, and in the best interest of those we serve.
Okay. And then last one is, how would you handle concerns from an upset parent or staff member, and how do you approach conflict or disagreements with colleagues? If you got an example for that, sure.
I believe the first step in addressing concerns from a parent or staff member is to listen carefully, respectfully, and ensure they feel heard. Many times people simply want to know their concerns are being acknowledged and taken seriously. As a board member, if elected, I understand that there are established channels and procedures and processes for addressing concerns. I would encourage individuals to follow those procedures while helping them understand where to seek support or information. When disagreements arise, I believe the best approach is to be open and respectful communication. I try to focus on the facts, listen to different perspectives, and work collaboratively towards solutions. While people may not always agree, maintaining professionalism, transparency, and mutual respect is essential for building trust and making decisions that are in the best interest of students and the community. I don't have any there.
Okay. All right, thank you, appreciate it. All right, then we have Ryder. Thanks for coming and showing me interest. So that first one, please tell us about yourself, why you're interested in filling this school board position, and what makes you a strong candidate.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Riley Luter. Probably most people in this room tonight know me as Riley Park. I was born and raised in this community. I'm an alumni of Cooper School, but most importantly, I'm a mom of two little boys who are attending school here currently. Professionally, I've spent the last 13 years working in healthcare, with the last 7 of those serving in leadership roles. Currently today, I'm a nursing director at our local hospital here in the Dalles. I oversee 5 different departments in all day-to-day operations that is inclusive of clinical and non-clinical areas. Beyond my professional experience, though, I want to outline that I'm also a parent with children in our community. So I have a personal vested interest in the success of the schools. Last fall, I was lucky enough to serve on the instructional advisory committee here, working with the board alongside educators, community members, teachers to review feedback and help create directives or recommendations to the board where we review data in regards to staffing, curriculum resources, behavior supports, classroom sizes. And I feel that that experience really gave me appreciation for the complexity of the education system and the decisions that are made here. It's not easy. I think that my interest also is because I believe that strong schools are the foundation of strong communities, and we really need that here. And so I want to help ensure that the district remains physically responsible while continuing to give students the best support they need to continue their education.
All right, thank you. What specific strengths, experiences, or perspectives would you bring to the board?
I think I bring 3 strengths or perspectives. The first one is extensive leadership. Working in healthcare is a highly regulated environment where I must balance people, budgets, policy, long-term strategy that will impact patients really at the end of the day, which I think correlates to what the work you do here on the board, right? The decisions that you make today affect the students that are the trickle down, the people that are at the end of every decision you make. Secondly, I believe I'm a collaborative leader. In my current role today, I work with a huge diverse group of people, including physicians, nurses, frontline staff, other clinical roles, executive leadership, legal counsel. Working with that diverse group of people allows me to better understand where people are coming from and kind of allows me to learn to listen a little and help make decisions based on the information you're provided. So secondly, I think that, and then thirdly, my last perspective really is just being a parent and a member of this community. Understanding that there's important in public trust. And I think in today's world, we have a lot of information readily available to us on the internet or using AI. And a lot of times people are using that information as their source of truth. And that might not always be the source of truth. So I think that bringing in this perspective as a parent and community member also is important thing that I need.
Then the third one is, what do you see as the most significant challenges facing the district, and what is your vision of an outstanding school district?
Yeah, well, to start with, we live in a rural community, and rural districts are struggling balancing limited financial resources with the growing needs of our students. I think that was very evident in the data that was presented to us during the instructional advisory committee in regards to just the additional academic support and the behavioral resources that are really ramping up in this community in particular. And so I think that the challenges with the limited financial resources makes it difficult probably for us to recruit and retain excellent staff while also trying to maintain those strong resources for the students in this community. So I think that's one area that I'd like to outline. I kind of touched on the information being readily available. I think that public trust and transparency is another challenge. That's evident with kind of like what I'm hearing in the community based on the decisions that are being made around the board. And so I think that while, preaching transparency is great, but like, how is that information being sourced and how is that being divided? We can talk about it well in these types of meetings, but making sure that information is being spread amongst the community in a standard platform is important. And then my biggest vision, I think, for being a member of the board is really creating a district where every student feels safe, teachers and staff are feeling supported, and everyone is challenged to reach their full potential. I think my experience with my children and having kind of a special needs child, success really isn't always measured by test scores. And I think it's important for us to prepare students to become capable members of society. And that starts here.
And then fourth one is, how do you view the board's role versus the administration's role, and what is your understanding and or experience with policy and governance?
Yeah, I think much like the other 2 candidates have said, it is apparent that the board's role really is adoption of policy, creation of vision, development of strategic plan, and then the administrative and superintendent staff is responsible for implementing those policies. I like to think of it kind of as the board's responsibility is the what and the why, and the administrative staff's responsibility is the how. I think that my experience working in healthcare being a part of kind of risk management committees, being a part of policy development committees has allowed me the opportunity to build policy and kind of see it be dispersed from the top down. So I mean, she's
Sure. Maybe then, how would you handle concerns from an upset parent or staff member, and how do you approach conflict or disagreements with colleagues? If you got a specific that you'd like to share, and you're quite welcome to.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest priorities that this board has, or a member of a board, is always listening. People really want to know that they're being heard before they're given a response or an immediate reaction. I think that, you know, as people, as humans, we all have an emotional side to us. And so when someone's coming at you and they're coming in hot, it's a little bit difficult to not have a barrier up and respond immediately to whatever concerns are being addressed. So I think that having a little bit of emotional intelligence to kind of sit back and pause and listen to what people are saying, and be able to articulate or ask clarifying questions to then to determine, is this a board matter or is this really administrative matter? And we have policies that we can direct these community members or parents through this administrative process. And then I also think it's important to round back. So if you are providing them with information and they are not getting what they need, rounding back and see if there's anything else that you can help resolve, and kind of maybe putting the two together if it's between administration and kind of being a mediator. You know, working in healthcare, and one of my biggest roles and responsibilities is working in risk and quality management. And I think that while I don't want to get into detail about specific examples, but I'll just say in general, healthcare is a fast-paced environment, and there are mistakes and errors that occur in those environments, and it's our responsibility in leadership to investigate those concerns. And when you bring groups of people together to conduct these investigations, there's a lot of finger pointing that happens because nobody wants to be at fault in those situations. And so in my role being the facilitator of these types of meetings, it's really important that everybody is on the same page, and we're here to talk about data-driven facts. We're not here to point fingers. And you know, just recently I conducted a root cause analysis at the hospital, and we were able to come together and make an outcome action plan that supported our patients and helps make our patients safe. And so I think that, you know, that's a directive from the board as well. I think here we can listen to those concerns and then remember that any actions that we create are going to be the students at the end of every decision. So
Okay, well, that's all 5 of them, so thanks for your time. And then last up for tonight is grade comps. Good. Thanks for being here. So the first one, please tell us about yourself, why you're interested in filling this school board position, and what makes you a strong candidate.
So my name is Ray Thomas. I've lived in Beaufort, I'm not sure, a long time. I went to school here, graduated from Beaufort. My brother went to school and graduated here. My kids went on to school here. My nephews are currently in school, so I had a genuine investment in the success of the district. Professionally, I spent about 20 years in public service and different leadership roles. Served in law enforcement, supervised employees, managed all sorts of complex investigations in law enforcement, corrections, helped develop policy, and today I lead an insider risk program and threat management program in In-Situ, which is a Boeing company. Throughout my career in law enforcement, I've learned to evaluate the facts, ask thoughtful questions, and sometimes those questions are very complex. You know, they make difficult decisions and really hear people from different perspectives. I'm interested in serving just because I've got a whole career of public service. I do have an invested interest in Beaufort. I love my community, I love the school. It did a lot for me and my family. So
Thanks for that. And then the second one is, what specific strengths, experiences, or perspectives would you bring to the board?
So one of my biggest strengths is being able to look through an objective lens. and then moving on, law enforcement, that you can't really rely on, you can't at all rely on assumptions and rumors. I gather information, I evaluate facts, ask a lot of questions, listen to a bunch of different viewpoints, and then make decisions based on those facts. Those aren't always easy decisions. I also bring leadership experience. I've supervised team, managed all sorts of sensitive situations, worked through a lot of conflict and collaborating with a lot of people from different viewpoints, ethnicities, cultures, and backgrounds. Another strength that I think of mine is financial accountability. Well, I don't expect the board manage to put the budget, there is an understanding the board is expected to have of the budget and be able to ask questions to gather that additional information that they need for, making decisions.
Okay, and then third one, what do you see as the most significant challenges facing the district, and what is your vision of an outstanding school district?
I think like many, rural districts, I think one of the main challenges is really, there's a lot of them, but retention of the quality staff, the financial stability is a big one. And then being able to work within those parameters and still give the students those opportunities they need, is quite limited resources. So I think a vision for me for an outstanding district is really at the end of the day, our kids feel safe. Your teachers have to feel supported, your parents have to feel heard, and basically there's got to be trust with the leadership that the voters have put in place to manage that district. And I think it comes down to good communication and the board and administration working together to towards a common goal.
And then number 4. Correct. So how do you view the board's role versus the administration's role? What is your understanding or experience with policy and governance?
So I think the board's responsibility is really governance. That this has been said, I feel like I'm repeating stuff, but the board establishes the policy. They approve budgets, they set the district's, my soul and like, yeah. They set the district's vision and they hire and evaluate the superintendent, and they just provide that oversight that's needed. The superintendent's really responsibility is really the boots on the ground. They're the ones that are making the operations happen and they're implementing any board policies that are being passed. I do think it's really important not to blur those roles. Board members should ask questions, they should seek that information and hold administration accountable, but they also shouldn't try to manage employees and daily operations. As far as what I bring for the governance, I bring both the operational side of leadership and the board governance side. Beyond supervising employees and leading investigations, I served as a vice president and president of our Sheriff's Deputies Association. So in that role, I basically worked within the parameters of governing documents. I represented the members that elected me into those positions, negotiating with management, help work through some complex decision. I think that kind of translates pretty well to the school board position.
Okay, thanks. Then number 5, how would you handle concerns from an upset parent or staff member, and how do you approach conflicts or disagreements with colleagues? If you got an example you'd like to share, I'd love to.
Yeah. So throughout my career in law enforcement, I'm constantly dealing with people of varying opinions and priorities. One example I give is I helped develop a self-county multidisciplinary team. Brought law enforcement, school administrations, DHS, other agencies together to help students, but there was never really an all-time agreement on the best way to approach certain situations. So I found it to be good in those situations to just keep everybody focused on a mutual goal and figure out a solution and how to get to that solution, that makes sense. I think you gotta listen, you gotta have those respectful conversations and really, at the end of the day, everybody will be working towards the same goal. So, if a parent, if in those situations, you deal with sensitive information, and so if people would come to you and discuss those, you you help educate them through that role, because in those multidisciplinary teams, there was a lot of different disciplines, and so it brings different viewpoints, and you just gotta work together. So that's
And so it's the last one, correct? Yeah, alright, so that's all for those. Dave, I totally messed something up at the beginning. I forgot to give this to you, so. So with that, awkward transition there to board, chair. So on your, the new business, the only thing that we have left is this interim superintendent search update. So we need to find an interim, superintendent ASAP. And we've been in talks with someone on that. And so I contacted COSA, OSBA, a couple other organizations, ESDs, and so we're in talks with someone I believe would be a good fit for this interim position. We'll have to work out contracts. So we do need to go into contract negotiation over the next day and tomorrow. So one of us needs to do that. I've already been working on it. Someone willing to step in with them and talk. So we would need a motion.
I'll make a motion
Okay, for
contract negotiations with new superintendent.
and then who's gonna do it?
Okay,
Okay, that's it's much on the floor. Need a second. So second, so it's moved and seconded and negotiate and we'll have a special meeting at some point. So it's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. As opposed, motion passes unanimously. And so with that, I will, Dave, it's your job.
Okay, we have nothing else on the agenda. I will call this meeting closed.
Okay.